Hi everyone, welcome back to the Anthony podcast. And today's guest is Aaron Thornton from the Football Brief and the Villa Forever podcast. Me and Aaron go back a long way. Aaron used to work at my secondary school, so we talk about football, tribalism, we talk about Aaron's love of Aston Villa, we talk about moving to America and a load of other different things. So enjoy today's episode. How are you doing today, Aaron?
I'm good, thanks, mate. I'm joining you from New York. So currently, it's actually quite sunny over here. It's been pretty bad weather recently, so it's quite sunny. So obviously that always makes things better. So I'm all good, mate. How are you?
Uh, I'm good, thank you. As we've spoken about off camera, I've had a nice relaxing day. So yeah,
Can't beat a relaxing day, mate.
what time is it? What time is it over there? If you don't mind me asking.
It's no, of course. It's currently 2:20, so it's the early afternoon here now.
Thank you for giving up your afternoon.
Nah, not at all, man. When you reached out and asked me to come on, I was more than happy. And obviously we do go quite way back actually. So yeah, it was more than happy to reach out and help a friend.
Yes, as you just said, as you said, we do know each other from the past. I believe you did some volunteer work at my secondary school.
Yeah, so Wilson Stewart, shout out to Wilson Stewart, by the way. So Wilson Stewart was a big part of my life growing up. I did work experience there when I was in year 10 doing GCSEs, and then I it was actually my first job after university was Wilson Stewart. So I actually worked there for I think 3 years between 2013 and 2016. So that was so, and then obviously there I met you, and I've met other amazing people and students alike. And like you just said, the Villa Forever podcast, hosted by Chad Williams, is
Yeah,
another one of my close friends who I join on a Monday usually. So and I met him there. So just like yourself,
we're gonna we're gonna talk about that a bit later if you don't mind.
of
So,
course.
so if we take this back, Aaron, how did you start getting interested in sport?
In sport, well, to be honest, mate, sports just been has been a part of my life since I was growing up. I think I come from quite an athletic family. My mum was a runner. My dad played football. So growing up, I was sort of surrounded by that. And then getting into it when I was in school as a kid, like it was the one subject that I would really excel in. I was okay academically, like I wasn't bad, but definitely for me, sport was always something that I was good at and I enjoyed. So, yeah, just having it around me from a young age really sort of influenced my pathway.
So, what stood out to you about football more than other sports?
Truthfully, I was quite late into football. I didn't start
Me
playing.
too.
Yeah, I didn't start playing seriously until I want to say until I was probably about 11 or 12. Like I knew what it was and I would follow it loosely, but I didn't actually start playing properly until then. I think because, in England, like football, like it's part of our culture. It's so tribal. Like it's hard not to see it and to hear about it. So then, obviously, all my life I've been an Aston Villa fan because of my dad. So I've always followed the Villa, and football. I was okay at it. I guess I still play now, and I don't want to say that I'm great because I'm definitely not, but I was okay. And it was just, I think, in England, football is the most accessible sport really to play. So that's why football.
I I didn't start getting into football as a fan until 2008, and and ironically, the team that got me into it wasn't Aston Villa. It was Man United. That front three of Rooney, Ronaldo, Ronaldo, and Tevez.
Neves,
Excuse
yeah.
me.
Do you know, I was about to start slating you then and saying, why on earth do you follow Manchester United? But that wasn't a bad team, was it, to be fair? If you're going to get into it, that's not a bad team to follow.
My 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 family are Villa fans, but to be honest, I wouldn't class myself as a Villa fan. I like them to do well, obviously, but I wouldn't class myself as a Villa fan.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
So are you obviously it sounds the obvious by your accent, but are you from Birmingham?
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm Birmingham born and bred. So I was born in a Good Hope Hospital in Sutton Coldfield. Then I grew up as a kid in Great Bar, which is not far from Wilson Stewart. And then I moved to Sutton Coldfield when I was younger. My nan and granddad always lived in Sutton Coldfield, so I was always there quite a lot. And then yeah, even up until I moved to America, I was living in the Jewelry Quarter in Birmingham. So yeah, man, Birmingham, born and bred. Love my city. Love everything about the people, the food, just the culture, and obviously the villa. So yeah, mate.
Wait, what 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 do you did you decide did you decide to support the Villa, or what do you like, or what your dad like you're supporting Villa because that's the only team I'm gonna take you through.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I had no choice. It was yeah. My dad has been a Villa fan all his life, and then obviously it's quite common, isn't it, that you follow the team that your dad supports. So yeah, he would take me to games. I think my mum actually banned me from going with him at one point because I think I was coming back chanting some of the songs as a kid, and obviously some of these songs have got a few choice words, haven't they? And so he would take me, as a young kid in the '90s, which was cool. And then I got my own season ticket when I was a bit older. I don't have one anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, no, I had no choice in the Villa. It was that. And anytime I'd mentioned blues as a kid, like just joking around, my dad was not happy. So yeah.
The, so I imagine if you would have said to him, can you take me to a Wolf, if you take me, could you take me to a Wolf game, for example, the answer would have been no.
No, yeah, he would have. No, it would have just been a straight up no. See you later. So yeah, no. I mean, I have been to Wolves games since because look, I'm a football fan. I love the game, and I've got friends who support different teams. So over the years, obviously, you'll go to different games. I've been to Man United a few times because one of my good friends is a Manchester United fan. So look, I like watching football, but obviously Aston Villa is just my absolute do or die. So
So, so when did you go to your first game? Can you remember the season?
wow, no. I remember roughly like all I remember is being in just a crowd of people and it all just being really loud and sort of crazy. So I mean that would have been like the mid '90s. I was born in 1991, so my dad was taking me, when I was sort of like probably 3, 4, 5. So it would have been like sort of 94, 95 around that time. I couldn't give you an exact season, but definitely mid '90s would have been my first experience.
Like, on the, so what was your first highlight? Like, what was the first memory that stuck out to you? Like, actually being there in the stadium, can you remember or not?
I mean, there's a few that stick out. Like when I was a bit older, like I was still a kid, but my memory was a lot better then. So I can remember sort of just being in the stands and just thinking, wow, this is. I think first, like when you first walk up the stairs and you're sort of looking out onto the pitch, it was like thinking, whoa, this is massive. Like this is just massive. And I think from early on, honestly, I do remember from early on just thinking how important Villa was to people, because the before the match, during the match, after the match, it's a whole big thing, isn't it? Like it's a big day out. Um, but I remember like being on my dad's shoulders and just people chanting around, and my first memory really is it just being fun. Like this is a really fun place to be. Is probably my initial memory. Have you been to Villa Park?
I, yeah, I've been to Villa Park, and as we've already mentioned, I went to listen to it, and get like, there would sometimes get like tickets for like a cup game or something, like in the bars and things like that.
In the box. Look at you, posh.
Yeah, it was like well, I think it was like some kind of special deal, special deal that I had with the school because as you might remember, they had a little they had a little relation, relationship. Is that the right word?
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, there was no, 100%. You're correct. Yeah, there was definitely some sort of like I know. Well, I know the head teacher at the time,
Yeah,
Mr. Steve Hughes. I think
yeah.
he's a massive Villa fan. So I know there was definitely some sort of community link with the club. I think they would come and do things, and yeah, in turn we got a chance to go to the. I think you know what? Saying that, I'm pretty sure me and some staff members actually. There's me giving you grief about going in a box. I'm pretty sure me and some of the staff went in a box one of the games. Um, Unfortunately, I think it was a season we got relegated. But it was an experience nonetheless.
It's a, it's all about the experience. But ironically, my first ever football match as a whole, because I went, was with respite, yeah. And because obviously I went with respite, so I couldn't really pick what game we went to. So it was actually a Birmingham City game.
Boo.
it, it was when it was when Joe Hart was was in left for them.
Oh wow, Joe Hart. Yeah. They're actually pretty decent back then, to be fair.
Yeah, it was still it was when they were in the Premiership.
Oh wow, that's what, decades ago now, isn't it? Centuries ago. Joking.
I think it might have been the season when they won the Carabao Cup or whatever it's called. Back
20
then.
yeah 2010, 2011, around that time.
It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
it was 2000 it was 2008, wasn't it? Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, forget about them. But fair play. At least you went to a game.
Yeah. So the so obviously the one of the most one of the most beloved things about sport is the last minute winners. So okay, what was the first game that you went to where there was a last minute winner?
A last minute winner. That's a good question. I actually went to a game. There was a match that I can think of. It wasn't a last minute winner, but it was a last minute equalizer. And that, I mean, the place turned to bedlam. We were actually in the championship, um, and it was Aston Villa versus Sheffield United. We were 3-0 down. This would have been now 2017. We were 3-0 down, and it was looking hopeless. And then it was the last kick of the game, or one of the last sort of moments of the game. It was three. We managed to get 2 goals back. It was 3-2. People were leaving the stadium because they thought, well, it's over now. We've lost. John McGinn gets the ball, whips in this cross, and I think it was Andre Green, a young lad at the time for the Villa, popped up with a header, 3-3, and it just went mental. So that's the one that springs to mind for like a last minute goal. trying to think if if I've seen a last minute winner at a game like live. I've been to a lot of games over the years, um, but I don't know if I've been to one with a last minute winner as such. But that Sheffield United game is pretty special.
Have
About
you?
you?
Uh, I've only been to I've only been to a handful of matches, so no, I can't think of any.
Fair enough.
But as you know, when you're in a wheelchair, it can be quite hard to get a season. Like the waiting list is pretty long.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I mean, I know you're asking me questions, but just while we're on the subject, I mean, I'm also on that waiting list. I've been on that waiting list for a long time. But do you find, I mean, not just the Villa, but in terms of sport grounds in general, do you find accessibility good more often than not, or is it not great? Like, what's it like?
I think it definitely got better, obviously, but when you look at when you look at certain stadiums, they got better compared to what it used to be. From what I've been told, obviously, I don't have any first-hand experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm pretty sure. I know Chad's obviously a season ticket holder. He has been for many years, and he sits on the side, not behind the goal. He's got a good seat, obviously on the
Yeah,
ground level. So I think um, I don't think it's behind the goal anymore, which is like you say, which is a good thing. But it's definitely something that I agree with you. I think seeing it, and it's a place that I it's something I care about quite deeply in regards to accessibility and things like that because of just my history and stuff like that. And I always try and keep an eye out to make sure that these sort of places have those facilities and have that infrastructure there. And I do think it's got better over the years for sure, but there's still
it,
improvement.
it's a club by club basis, as I said. Have you ever been to a European game over in Europe at any point?
Like like a different team in Europe.
No, like say, do you know on the odd occasions that Liverpool have been in Europe in
Yeah,
their
yeah,
lifetime? Have you
yeah.
ever been to a game?
Yeah, I have. When we were in the Europa League, well, what it is now, the Europa League, I think it would have been, what was it called back then? UEFA Cup or whatever it was called. Um, yeah, so back around about, I think, 2010, 2009, 2010, I went to a couple of games at home, or one that I can remember. I couldn't tell you what the team was. I think it's like a random Hungarian team or something. Um, but I went to that game. Yeah, yeah.
Have you ever been away in Europe for the Villa game or any game period?
Not in Europe. I mean, they did come and tour over here in America. Well, the last 2 years, but 2 years ago, back in 2023, that summertime, they were in Philadelphia, and I took myself and the wife over. She's never been to a Villa game, so I I've sort of like forced Villa upon her. So we went to Philadelphia and we caught like a preseason friendly. They did like a summer series over here, which is pretty cool. So that was quite cool seeing Villa in America, and they're coming again this year. So I might try and see them
Yeah,
again.
you don't have to go into specific numbers, but that must have cost you a lot of money.
Nah, not at all. The ticket itself. I mean, no, honestly, because it's a preseason friendly. It's not a serious game. It's more about match fitness for the players, and obviously, it's about so for teams who went in preseason. Teams that go to America, they'll go to Hong Kong, Australia. It's all about them pushing their brand, making fans overseas recognize them globally. So it's a good way to advertise yourself, if that makes sense. So they want the tickets tend to be cheap, so they can get more people there, so you can get more of a fan base worldwide. So honestly, the ticket I can't remember, but it was not a lot of money. And then just getting to Philadelphia probably cost more.
Yeah, actually, that makes more sense for a team like the Villa because we've all do respect globally, not as big as somebody like Man United or Chelsea or like Liverpool, like you know what I mean. So
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Aaron, so be, being in the US, how did that affect your fandom?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, mate, like not as much as I thought it would. I actually, if anything, I'm probably closer now to to my team, to Aston Villa here than I was in the UK. And look, I was very close in the UK, and I would go to a lot of matches, and I'm always trying to take in content. But over here, I feel because of the time difference and wanting to be involved, I subscribe. I listen to so many different Villa podcasts. Different content creators. And the good thing about being over here is they broadcast all of the games pretty much. So, like in England, they don't do the 3 p.m.s, but here they do. So, um, it's I get to watch the Villa a lot through that as well, which is amazing.
Obviously, from what I've been told over there, it's because I don't want to affect the non-league side, isn't it? Because they want people to go to non-league. But I would think if you support Aston Villa and you're not into and if you're not into non-league, it doesn't matter what they do. You're not gonna get somebody to go if they don't like it.
Yeah, I mean it's a good point, Anthony. I mean, look, there's pros and cons for both, isn't there? Really, I think ultimately what you will see is that the Premier League will become its own sort of self-sufficient streaming service, a bit like Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever you want to call it. I think, and you'll find that the Premier League has its own thing where it shows all the games. I'd be very shocked if it doesn't go that way in the next few years. Um, I think there's a lot of talk that if we show the 3 p.m. games, then fans aren't going to come to the stadium. They're not going to want to buy tickets because they're going to watch it on TV, which is true. I think I can see that. If it's a really rainy day, like certain fans will think, do you know what, I'm going to sit and watch it on TV. But I do think on the whole, football, especially in England, is such a tribalistic and such a passionate thing for fans that they will go to stadiums still. So I don't see it affecting it too much, but I'm not an expert on that sort of thing, but I'd be shocked if it doesn't go that way.
And also, if you're the if you're the certain person that goes to the game, you're gonna go to the game no matter what. If you're the sort of person that just prefers to watch it from the from their home, then you're gonna do that. And you're gonna do that no matter what. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah, I get what you're saying. 100%. Fans will find a way.
So, 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 do you know football tribalism? Has has that ever been a problem with you? Has that ever spoil your fandom, or do you get into it like proper get into it?
Don't get me sorry. Don't get me wrong. Like I've definitely been at games and I've seen things and I've witnessed certain things that are bad or over the top from fans. But that's not that's rarely has that happened, and usually it's just silly. It's a minority of fans that sort of take it too far. I think that's one thing that makes the Premier League and football in England so unique is that rivalry and having um, that sort of banter between clubs and fans. Like obviously you don't want it to go too far because people can get hurt or they can be offended. Um, but I do think on the whole, it's generally good in England, and that's one big thing I've noticed since being over in New York and living in the US in general is that the culture of sport and how the fans interact with each other is so different. It's so nice over here. Fans can sit with each other, and you know, I have to sometimes be careful if I'm watching the game. Not well, I go to certain places now where there's sort of like more hardcore fans, but you know, you're sort of exerting yourself, and you come on, get into him and do this and blah blah blah, and you get some American fans who are a bit like, oh whoa, this guy's a bit serious, and like I'm like, that's just passion, man. That's just what it is in England. That's how we are. Don't get me wrong, Americans are passionate about sport, totally, but just in terms of that like tribalistic sort of element that we have in England, it's not the same over here, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. As I said to you earlier, I became I became a fan of football late, so I didn't really pick up on the old tribalism thing. My mentality is, if it's a good team, I'll watch it, and if I like the team, I'll watch it. I just I just like the sport as a whole, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah. And go on, sorry, mate, go.
But I understand why people enjoy the tribalism, but as you say, there's definitely a line that some people cross, which is not right, obviously.
Yeah, it's it, I think it just adds to having the it's a whole big day out, isn't it? You can sort of, whether you watching your team away or at home, you go into certain pubs. You can't go into some pubs because it's a rival pub, so you can't go in there, and little things like that. I just find it just quite fun. I think that it adds to the game, it adds to the sort of the importance of the match. If the fans are sort of giving each other a bit of banter, if we're all nicey, sometimes the match can be over, and during it, you're having a good conversation. Oh, okay, it's over, good game. But it's definitely more fun if there's a bit of
Sorry,
bit of rivalry.
I am listening. I've just got something in my eye, but I am listening.
It's okay, but no, that was me. Then you make sure you're okay.
I'm fine. So, so obviously, obviously you support Villa, but if there's a team on like Liverpool, for example, you're not one of them fans that will just watch their team. Do you watch other do you watch other teams as well? I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, no, like I'm a big football fan. So I will watch if it's on TV. If the Villa have played or are playing the next day. If there's a match on, then usually on the TV in the apartment. If I'm at home, then there'll be football on the TV. Um, so I'll always try and consume football in some way. I don't follow any of the teams, like particularly. The only other team that I loosely follow is a team called Ayr United up in Scotland, who are in the Scottish Championship, and that's because of my Scottish roots. So yeah, that's the extent I would say. Um, I would watch. I sort of like follow another team, but in terms of watching football, I'll always watch football, whether it's English, German, Spanish. Like I just love watching the games.
But say for example, if a former Blues player scored the right goal, are you one of them people that will be like, no, it was crap just because it was a former Blues player, or are you like fair play?
So like what? So that again. So like if
So if you see a former Blues player that scored a great goal, are you like one of them fans that'll be like, no, it was a crap goal just because it was a former Blues player, or we give the player, or we give the player the props?
Oh, nah, always giving the props. Like, I mean, the Blues are irrelevant right now, so it doesn't make any difference to me. Um, no, but seriously, like, I don't, I appreciate football. I appreciate talent. I look, I'm not, I'm a Villa fan, so yes, Birmingham City are our rivals, and like, I don't like them, but I can appreciate, players, and I can appreciate their skills, their talent. Look at Jude Bellingham. He's a Blue Nose. He's a Blues fan, player for Blues, but he's a great player, and I like him to a point. I got nothing against him. Obviously, if he's playing against Villa, I don't like him. But like,
Well,
I still appreciate the talent. Do you know what I mean? So they don't really bother me too
The
much.
reason why I say that is because some fans are so are, are so hardcore that, as I said, they would just say, "Oh, it was a crap goal just because of who scored it." And I'm like, that's not really fair. But I get it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I understand fans. I understand why fans say that and do that. That's not me per se. Like, look, a couple of my good friends are Blues fans. That's because we're in the same city. It's going to happen. But I think it's different for Villa at the minute because this isn't even a dig, but Blues, they're on the rise at the minute. They're doing much better. They just got promoted into the Championship, but they're so bad that they don't affect us or me. So like, I'm like, good luck to them. Do what you want to do. But until they're sort of at our level or back in the Prem, then maybe my opinion will change again slightly. But for now, I'm just like, whatever.
So when so when did you go from just watching it as a just watching it? I don't want to say as a fan, but like, do you know the fan that just watch the game and just enjoy the game for what it is? When did you go from? When did you? Sorry, let me start again.
It's okay.
When did you go from the fan that just watching the game as it is to the fan that actually like to break it down, break it down? If you know what I mean.
Yeah, like at probably when I got my season ticket back, sort of in my early 20s, late teens, early 20s, probably my late, yeah, like probably my early 20s. Sorry, I was starting going rather than sitting in the famous Holt end, which is where like it's good fun to go there for the chanting and for the atmosphere. Um, me and my friend, my flatmate at the time, we both got a season ticket together, and we wanted to actually sit and watch the game. So we got a really good seat on the halfway line and just enjoyed the match. Obviously, still chanting away, but actually sitting and watching it and enjoying it. So, um, probably my early 20s, and I think social media has helped a lot with that as well because you start to see the club players, they interact a lot more, and you start to understand more about the club behind the scenes. You start to see what the manager's trying to do tactically, so it becomes more than just going to the match and watching these guys kick a ball. It then becomes, right, how are they doing this, what are they doing, why are they doing it, and it then becomes a much more wider picture than just the match itself. You're looking at all areas.
What age did you start to appreciate tactics and formation? Would it be the early 20s?
Say that again, sorry.
When did you start to appreciate tactics and formation? Would it be the early 20s again?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of watching the game live, probably around that time, yeah, like early 20s when I started to appreciate the effects that it could have on the game. But then before that, playing FIFA, which sounds crazy, but obviously when you're playing FIFA, if you've played it or you've seen it,
Yeah.
you know that like you have to come up with your own formations, and so you sort of start delving. I sort of started to delve into it around then, and I've got friends who play a Football Manager, which is again a lot of formation and sort of tactics. So like I never played it. Well, I played it at friends. I never got the game myself, but around that time I was sort of taking a bit more of an interest. But then, yeah, definitely early 20s, you start to look at the game a lot differently as you get a bit older, and you start to appreciate it. And so yeah, I'd definitely say around that time.
But for me personally, I've got a very inquisitive, I've got a very inquisitive brain anyway. Like I'm always trying to figure out how did that work, how did this work
Yeah.
with anything. So obviously, when it came to football, my brain, as soon as I turned, like I want to say, as soon as I turned 21, I was like, okay, how did the tactics work? How did the manager set up and things like that?
Yeah, and when you sort of get into that headspace, it sort of just opens your mind to the game, doesn't it? Like you think that, I mean, look, football in essence is a very simple game. You kick a ball, you're trying to get it into the net. But when you've got two teams that are tactically astute and you've got managers that are very, very smart and are trying to play a certain way, you then watch the battle, and then you start to watch the manager on the sideline, and you can see them shouting instructions, and you see players moving in certain ways. And a lot of that goes down to a lot of these foreign managers that have come in, because you look at a lot of these Spanish managers, Italian managers, they play a different way, and then the Premier League has benefited from that in many ways, because you've got then your left back or your right back who's then coming inside, or you've got strikers who are then dropping into midfield. Like little things like that make the game a lot more interesting. So then the other team's going to try and counteract that, and it's fun, man. It's certainly an element of the game which I really enjoy, and a lot more people are speaking about it more now, so you get to understand it more.
Um, you know, you know, as we were speaking about earlier, going to the game versus watching it on the broadcast, I would
Yeah.
say that that's definitely advantage of going to the game live. Because obviously, when you're watching the broadcast, obviously the camera has to follow the ball, so you don't really get to see some of the tactical nuances. Obviously, they have the commentary, but I think sometimes the commentary can be underwhelming, a bit underwhelming to put it politely.
Yeah, no, you're spot on there again, mate. Because the amount of times that I've watched a game on TV and I've got a friend who's been to the game, or vice versa, and we've sort of got different opinions. It's like, oh, what game are you watching? Because I saw this, but uh, again, like most things, there are pros and cons, because sometimes watching it on TV, you can sort of see the full picture of the players, how they're set up, and obviously you get the commentary. So you got ex players talking about the tactics or talking about formation, so it sort of helps you along the way a bit. So you sort of see what's going on, and they might highlight a player that you can kind of keep an eye on. Whereas sometimes live, depending on where you're sitting, you can miss things. But like, I agree with you. I think, look, nothing beats watching the game live for me. I think it's just being there and having the atmosphere is 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 amazing. But then I guess that's why you've got to have a good commentary team for TV, because then that allows you as a fan to feel that you're there and feel immersed in the occasion. So yeah,
I I assume you get different voices to what we get in the UK. But in my honest opinion, I think some of the football commentary is really poor to me. Really poor to me. I know it's not the most easy job in the world, but some football commentators, I really wish they would put a bit more effort into it.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't disagree with you. I have to be honest. The thing with the US, you do find that it's actually the streaming service that I watch the games on, which is called Peacock. Um, they actually have English commentators. A
Yeah.
lot of them are from, they sort of overlap or crossover from different broadcasting channels. So they are English. They are former players, a lot of them. So to be fair, I don't have that much of an issue with it. But I do agree that some of the commentary or commentators, they're so biased, some of them. Like, that some of them are former ex-players or they support a certain team, which is fine, obviously. But it's like you need to try and be a bit more neutral when you're speaking, because we can tell that you support Man United. Do you know what I mean? It's like we get
Yeah,
it.
and sometimes I play in my space. I understand they have to simplify. They have to simplify the day. That might not really understand the nuances properly, but with sometimes they'll go into a bit more analytical detail rather than just saying the basic stuff. Like for example, they would say this player needs to get this player needs to get in the this player needs to get in behind it, goofy. And I'm like, I okay, that's a bit obvious. what can't they explain how the player, how the player can get in behind and things like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally know what you mean, man. I guess it's tough, isn't it? Because when you're commentating, because the game's live and it moves so fast, they've sort of got to keep up. And I guess that's where your people in the studio come into it. So like at halftime or at the end of the game, like the post match, you've got like the analysis, or you've got like the former players sort of going in. I guess that's when they will sort of explain those
Yeah.
like nuances.
I
But
think I don't mean to cut you off, but
no, it's
I
fine.
think that's what I'm referring to be honest. I think I've just put them in together because they're both annoying me. I feel like sometimes some of the analysis can be a bit underwhelming.
And again, I'm not just saying this, like I tend to agree with you. And then what's great about that is though, like, so your opinion then is like, yeah, I find it quite underwhelming. And then that's when the power of social media, this is when social media is a good thing. You then become frustrated, or might say something on Twitter or whatever it might be, X, sorry, whatever it is, and you make an opinion, and then somebody else jumps on that opinion, and then you're having a conversation about football or the match, and it's nice. Don't get me wrong, sometimes comments can be horrible, and some people, again, like the minority we're talking about, certain fans taking it too far, can take it too far. But then that's the beauty of the sport. Like, it generates conversations online, and you can then sort of like start speaking about. But don't get me wrong, like the amount of times I've been looking at the TV and been like cussing it out because I'm like, well, I don't agree with that, or like, why are they not stating that, or this person is so biased or so annoying. And I guess it's all opinion, isn't it? It's all opinion.
And I think because of the time that we're living in here, people, not only individuals like us, but also the big media corporations, they want to get as many clicks as they can do, and if they can get more clicks of a former player making fun of another player, they would do they would do that rather than giving actual breakdown analysis. I get it. I get to it. I get it to an extent, but I think sometimes do you like do you like do you like detailed analysis can be more beneficial for the sport.
Yeah, uh, totally. Um, it also comes down to preference of your broadcaster, because I do know there are certain broadcasters that will offer more analysis. Like, there are some better than others. For example, like, I'll say it outright. Like, match of the day is great for highlights. If you want to just watch, it's something that's sort of been ingrained within football culture in England for years. So we're sort of used to that. But like, you're not going to get in-depth analysis. They do analysis, but in my opinion, it's very basic because of the time constraint. So it's never the most detailed. Whereas you watch like an MNF with Jamie Carragher usually, and whatever guest is on, they tend to go into more detail. I do find that he's very good. He's also on an American show called CBS, which him, Mika Richards, Thierry Henry, and a host called Kate Abdo, they've got this panel, and it's fun. It's very different to Sky. It's not as serious as Sky. I would say it's a lot more informal. But actually, the analysis, because between Thierry Henry and Jamie Carragher and Mika Richards, to be fair, their analysis is good. So I think it all depends on like who you like to watch, and when, and what broadcasters, I guess, as well.
Like a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago, for example, like there was a clip of Thierry basically taking the piss out out of a Man United centre back, and
Yeah.
there was a problem that was like rather than rather than mocking the person, why don't you actually break down what went wrong rather rather than just rather than just trying to make a joke out of it. You know
And
what
I
I mean?
think, excuse me, sorry. I was going to say as well, I think that like, and that's sort of the issue that you were touching on earlier. Like, when you've got former players who support a team, like for example, Roy Keane, like I do like Roy Keane a lot. I think his analysis is good, but obviously he's very passionate about Man United. So then, when it comes to when he gets annoyed, his emotion comes out, which is what you sort of want. But then you sort of lose that element of, well, actually, this is what they can do better. He just sort of comes at it from like, well, this is annoying. Back in my day, United weren't like this. We did this. So I do get your point with that, and I think that then comes down to who's on the matches at that time as well.
Did you see that Thierry Henry clip that I'm referring to or not?
Yeah, I've seen that clip. Yeah, yeah.
I thought that was actually quite bullshit, to be honest. Sorry for the language.
It's okay. No, it's fine. Yeah, don't worry. I swear a lot. Yeah, yeah, and he got a bit of backlash, didn't he, online for that? I remember
Yeah.
seeing a lot of people saying that's not good or not great. But then I don't know. It's because I think maybe the team that it is. I do find it because Manchester United are doing so badly at the minute. A lot of fans and a lot of teams disliked Man United for so long because look, you guys, Man United were dominating for years and years, and now that you're not, it's almost like any chance that someone can get the boot in, they're going to give you a bit.
Excuse me, why did he come, why did he say you guys, I don't support Man United, I don't support any team, I just like football.
Oh well, you mentioned that United sort of got you into it, so I didn't know like if
No, as I said, it was just that, but it was just that, from being with class.
yeah, yeah, no, that's fair enough. Yeah, well, sorry, not you guys, but the Man United, especially back then as well, when you first sort of got into football, like those teams were dominating. So I do think that any chance that former players or pundits or whatever can sort of get the boot in, I do think that Man United receive sort of that treatment just because of how good they were.
But just on a life thing, I think if you're 45 or in your late 40s and you're making fun of somebody in the late teens or in their 20s, it's just sad.
Yeah, no, it is. And look, I think people forget as well that because footballers are so handsomely paid and because they appear to live this lifestyle that just looks so glam and so perfect that they forget that they're just humans. And sometimes, look, it's part of the job, isn't it? Unfortunately, in football, you're going to get a level of criticism if you don't play well. But it's about how you deliver that criticism. Like you say, maybe be a bit more constructive with it. Say, yeah, you know what, that wasn't great, but how you can improve is doing this. And so I agree with you on that. Um, I just think, unfortunately, it's sort of part and parcel with the job. Like because it's such a hyper focused sport. They're under the scope all the time. Like the criticism is gonna be a bit bigger than usual. So you know,
Yeah. So moving on. How, what made you want to come up with the football brief? I know you haven't done an episode in a while, but what made you want to come up with the football brief?
yeah, the football brief. I mean, that came from my good friend in England. We've been good friends, best friends for a long time, and we're football obsessed. He's a massive Manchester United fan. Obviously, I'm a massive Villa fan, and since I've moved over here, like we would speak most weeks or most days about football or whatever. So then one day we just decided like we speak all the time about football. Why don't we do it? But we'll just record ourselves speaking, and then we started to sort of develop it from there really, and it became the football brief, talking about all things football, usually the Premier League, um, and then yeah, obviously recently, there's been some personal issues back in England for my friend and his family at the minute, so he's had to do a few things which he's not been able to record, which is fair enough. So hopefully, I think realistically we'll try and get something going for the new season now, because it's just how it, unfortunately, how it all happened with things that are happening back in England. But the football brief is just a space where we just talk football, and it's just a bit of fun, really, because there's so much going on. There's always a footballing story, like whether it's to do with the actual games, whether it's to do with outside of the game. There's always a story. So we just like to talk about it. We thought we'd try and do it in a way that was a bit different and a bit unique.
Can I give you some advice? Why don't, if your friend can't do it for whatever reason, why don't you try and reach out to different people? Obviously, you wouldn't be able to do it every week, but say like if you did it every 2 or 3 weeks, you could reach out to somebody different, and then you could get some story for that week in particular, and, and just talk like that with different people. So that,
Mate, mate. Well, I mean, you are you're the expert in these sort of waters. So, like, mate, I appreciate the advice. It's definitely
I,
something.
a little bit of way to grow your platform if that's what you want to do, of course.
Yeah, totally. I think, I mean, it started off as just something a bit of fun, and then, when you're in that space and you want to try and, ideally grow it and become something. And we could have done it about Villa, could have done it about Man United, but like, there's so many different. It's quite a congested space now, football, when it comes to like podcasting and stuff. So it's hard to try and make it a bit unique. And for sure, man, like, I think that's definitely something moving forward that I'll take on board and look to do. And I think once I know sort of exactly where he's with everything, because I tend to be around a lot, so I should be able to get it at least every week. If it's someone different, that's great. I think now that we know how it works and how to do it, and I've got a better understanding of it, it like you would have found out 5 years ago when you first embark on it. It's like, whoa, okay, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, and it, it, although it is fairly simple, there's still a few technical things you got to do, which I'm not great at. So it's like trying to get it all together.
I understand if you don't want to talk about this, and I do want to write it up soon, but what was the decision for you to move to America? Was it like a work thing or was it like a personal thing?
No, it wasn't work. It was my wife. And my wife, I've known her for a number of, well, before we got married and before I came out, I've known her for a number of years. And we reconnected. So we met in 2007. I was 15, she was 14. I was on a random holiday in Jamaica. When you're on a holiday in groups of people, you just meet and chat, whatever. So we just exchanged. I think back in the day, it would have been like MySpace or MSN. I don't know if you'd remember those sort of things.
No, that was a bit before my time. And
Yeah, I'm showing my age a bit now, aren't I? So we would sort of speak purely just platonically on that, and then so 2007 we met. We didn't see each other physically didn't see each other until 2022. So 15 and a half years later, um, we bumped into each other. I happened to be in New York. She was in New York. Don't get me wrong. Over the years, like, she's been in England, I've been in America, but like, we've never been able to sort of meet because of just different situations. But 2022, I was there for like 4 days with my friend, and we met up, and then the rest, as I say, is history. And I'm, a baby and marriage later, we're here. So because she's a doctor in the country, like, it was easier for me to move out here and find work rather than her coming to England, because she'd have had to do a load of different training and sort of exams and stuff. So, and also it's like New York or Birmingham. As much as I love Birmingham, it's like, which one? So that was the reason why I moved out, mate. Purely just to be with her and to start a family.
I, I, I did keep a relation. I did keep a relation going for 15 years when you don't meet in person for that long.
Well, this is the thing. Like, we didn't really like we when I say we would speak platonic, like, we was like on and off. So, like, I don't know, maybe randomly 1 month she might say hi, and I'm like, oh, how you doing? How's university? Cool, nice, sweet. And that was it. Like, it was never. there was one time where she was in England and she asked me, if, "Oh, were you around?" Like, I'm here. I think back in like 2017, but I was away or I was busy, so I couldn't see her. So it was just literally like on and off. Like, it was more just like a friendship that we just kept in touch like loosely. And then, like I say, when I was in New York in the summer of 2022, and it was like we met up. It was just like we met up and we got on really well, and it was like, right, let's see what happens. And then for a short while, I was in England. She was still here, and we were just like sort of keeping it together, which is hard. Long distance is hard, but you just got to communicate, mate. Communication in life is key, and that was that was
So,
it, really.
so if somebody offers you a job in sport, yeah, like a full-time paying job, would you take it or would you be like, nah, I would rather to keep it as fun?
So if I got offered to get paid for playing football rather than just playing it as
No,
fun.
not really playing, but covering the sport like a journalist or a writer or like as we're doing now. Would you?
Oh, I mean, look, I would, I love to, yeah, I mean, yeah, I definitely would like not, everyone would like to get paid, of course, for doing something they like. And journalism and stuff like that is definitely has always been something that has been close to me. I've always written things like just as a hobby on the side. I've always done things like this as a bit of a side hobby. But yeah, if someone came in and offered, like I wouldn't say no. It depends on what it was and what they're asking. But if it became like a job, I would love that because I'll be happy like doing that as a job, like 100%. Yeah.
I agree with that. As I said to you earlier, I have a very inquisitive mind, so I like asking questions and finding out things. So yeah, I completely agree with you on that. So my last couple of questions: how did you get connected with Chad from the Villa Forever podcast?
G- good question. Firstly, you're a very good host. You ask some very good questions. So like, I can see why you have done this for so long and have kept going because you're very good. Um, Secondly, how did I get acquainted with? Yeah, so Chad, that came about. I think maybe because the football brief sort of opened that. So Chad's been doing his podcast for a while, and Chad's one of the people that I subscribe to. So when I said to you that I consume a lot of Villa content, Chad is one of those. So I was always sort of watching from afar and listening and whatever. And I think when the football brief was sort of up and running at the start, and I was dropping content quite a lot, Chad probably saw it, and then just one day asked me if I wanted to do one of his Monday review shows or preview shows, review show, and then it just went from there. And and very kindly, he's asked me to become a regular on the Monday slot. So whatever Monday I'm free and he's doing it, I'll jump on with him. And again, just like yourself, like Chad's worked incredibly hard to get to where he has with it, and it's he's allowed me to meet so many different Villa fans, but also other fans from other teams. If we've done like a review show and stuff, so yeah, I owe Chad a lot of thanks for opening his world to me as well.
One of my favorite episodes that you did together was when you had the French fan. Was it? I can't remember was it a French journalist or somebody that follows PSG? I think it was, and that that was one of my favorite episodes. Please, please let me know if I'm wrong. I think it was a French
You're right. No,
journalist.
you're right. It was well, no, because to be fair, you're right. We played because in the Champions League we played PSG and we played Monaco. It might have been Monaco that we did
Oh,
together.
Monica. Yeah, I remember that it was Monaco. 'Cause I remember you talked about. I remember you talked about how in Monaco it's pretty much cat cat free. So you brought up how players would like how some players would like to how some players would like to move there.
Mate, I'm glad. I'm very, very. It's very nice to hear that you watched and listened clearly because, yeah, no, I mean, Monaco, obviously, as we know, is a fairly wealthy place. So if you're a player and you get offered to play there, a bit like the Middle East, a bit like Miami, a bit like, these sort of places, the lifestyle could be pretty cool. So,
And
yeah.
and would I actually factually right that it is tax free? Because that's what I thought, but maybe I'm wrong.
Tax free. I know that, I don't know if it,
The sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Go
no, no,
on.
no, go on, you go, man. It's fine.
All I was gonna say was, please don't quote, please do not quote me on that.
Oh, no, 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 not at all. Do you know, it's a good question. I know that the Middle East is, well, I say tax free. I think you have to be working there for like at least a year, and then it becomes tax free.
I thought it was 2 years. Sorry.
I might, mate, you probably know more than me. Monaco, I'm not too sure the situation, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
If I'm wrong, I apologise, and somebody can let me know in the comments.
Yeah, no, mate, yeah, please, yeah, because I haven't got a clue.
Okay. So what makes in your mind what makes can stand out apart from the obvious stuff? Like what makes you think can can stand out to people?
Honestly, because he's so a bit like yourself. Actually, I've noticed like he's very thorough in his research, very organized. So like with the shows and stuff, he will send me I'll have a list of questions and he sort of gives me the sort of run a show and what's going to happen and like knows what he's talking about. Like he's very knowledgeable and he'll make sure that everything's organized and ready. And I think that comes through because the show's always so coherent and it's just so fluid. Like this, mate, like, the questions you've asked me and you've clearly been doing your research and you've listened because like, I can just tell with the way you're asking me questions and stuff. So it's like that for me stands out. And, he's very, very good at reaching out to people, like a bit like you are. I think the thing, and I'm not very good at this, and this is something I've taken from him and taken from you. Seeing your tweets and stuff is like asking people. If you don't ask, you don't get. So you want someone on, like, okay, I'm going to just ask so and so. They say no. They say no. What's the worst that can happen? I'll ask somebody else. Like having that confidence to do that and always getting people on. I think that's testament to Chad and to yourself because it's something that I've looked at and learned. And and like you just said then about the football brief, and at the minute it's just a bit stale because obviously I made that, I created that with a friend, and I out of respect for him, really, I didn't want to like carry on. But now it's like, like you just said, well, he'll come back, but you can still get other people on and stuff. So it's asking that question. So yeah, that's one of the main reasons that I love his podcast. Apart from the obvious, obviously as well, but yeah, I think it's incredible.
I don't want to speak for Jay, obviously, but I think because of our situations, I feel like sometimes it can make us well, it can make us put a bit more effort, put a bit more effort in. 'Cause I feel like I have a point to prove, if you know what I mean. Now, now I'm not just now I'm not just some, some, I'm not just some podcaster that people feel sorry for, if you know what I mean.
100%, man.
So I think that can sometimes motivate people to put a bit more effort, in where other people wouldn't.
Man, that's really, really, firstly, really honest and very true. Unfortunately, because it shouldn't be that way. And I think, look, I've lived, worked, you know, alongside Chad, yourself, my mum. was a social worker back in the day with adults who had certain learning difficulties that you had to work with, and like physical, mental, all of it. So I've always been around, um, you know, that sort of space, and like everybody's just human. It doesn't matter like if you've got an ability or if you've got, you know, maybe something physically that's affecting you, something mentally that's affecting you. We've all got certain things that go on, but we're all just human. And, you know, it shouldn't have to be that, realistically, sometimes you have to put a bit more effort in because you need to, because, it doesn't come as easy to you. But like, I just think, I've never looked at it like that, and I don't want. And I agree with you. People shouldn't as well. But I guess it's about making. I guess it's about being consistent and changing people's mindset about that, because although people are better in this day and age, people are still arrogant, ignorant, don't understand it. And I think the big thing for like you and Chad, what you do for the platform, you show people that it can be done, because there are people maybe in certain situations, or a similar of similar backgrounds, who just think I can't do anything, like it's impossible for me. You and Chad show people that it is possible, like it's more than possible. If anything, you've got better content out there than most people, if I'm being honest. Like that's why I give it the time of day. So it's definitely, the landscape is definitely changing, but it's changing better because of people like you and Chad, for sure, mate.
I appreciate that. So, so my last and final question. It's gonna be a bit different for you because cause you're not, cause, because you don't really put enough content out there for me to ask you a normal wrap up question. So I'm gonna ask you a bit of a different one. If you could change one thing in football, what would it be? What would it be?
If I could change one thing in football,
Yeah,
um,
or in sport period if you wanted to say sports.
sport's a big one. Football's probably better. Um,
Yeah, whatever you want to do, mate, it's up to you.
I'd probably change. I was going to say VAR. I don't know. I quite like VAR in a way. Um, I think I'll probably change sort of what we spoke about in terms of the 3 p.m.s, and making it a bit more accessible for everybody in terms of on the TV and stuff. I think that's a thing that I would like to change. I'm very much, I've loved the tradition of what it has been, and how it is. And I get that's the sort of standard, but I do think we're ready now to change, and to allow people who maybe can't get to games, or can't, for whatever reason, see them week in, week out. I think it just gives everybody a better chance to consume it. So that's what I'd change.
I think everything has to evolve eventually. Even if I don't like it, I understand that everything has to change eventually. And sometimes it's not gonna be the kind that you like or want, but that's how life works. And you either have to embrace it to an extent and just move with it, or you're gonna end up being left behind.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I think it needs to. I don't think the Premier League will, just because of just how big it is. But the key word you said then was evolve. It does need to now, and it has been evolving in many ways, in aspects. But I think, yeah, the next step is for it to sort of forget these 3 p.m. blackouts. I've seen it. I've seen how it works in America, and I get, because America, they can't get to games, so obviously they're going to do that, and I get why they broadcast all the games. But it definitely needs to be a thing that happens soon.
So thank you for giving me some of your time, Aaron. Do you want, I would, I would like to give you the floor and let you promote anything that you want to promote.
Oh, thanks, man. Well, firstly, it's been an absolute pleasure and a privilege firstly to be asked to come on here. Seeing your videos and the people you've had on, it's to be amongst those sort of people is pretty special. So thank you for that. And promotion wise, look, the football brief is there. It's probably going to be kicking off again for the new season. It's just had to have a bit of a break at the minute because of certain things. But other than that, mate, and of course the Villa Forever podcast for Chad Williams. That's a big one. Get watching that. Get subscribed. Get the likes in, because that really is some fantastic content all around. So
The, this episode, this episode has been free, free promo with Chad.
yeah, yeah, it has. Yeah, it really has. Um, it really has. It's been pretty special, and I'm sure he'll appreciate it.
So thank you everyone for giving us some of your time. Please go and support the Villa Forever podcast. As we've said in this episode, Chad is a lovely guy, and he's passionate about football, more specifically Aston Villa. So yeah, go and support Chad. So thank you everyone. Thank you for giving us some of your time. From me, Aaron. Have a good day. Stay safe. Bye bye.